Welcome, everyone, to the Nerd Journey Podcast, episode 136. We're joining you every week to talk IT career progression and bring you the advice we wish we'd been given earlier in our careers. I'm your host, John White, at VJourneyman on Twitter, joined by my co-host, Nick Cordy, at NetworkNerd_. Hey, Nick, how's it going?
Hey, John, I am doing fine and dandy. We are both pre-sales technical engineers with backgrounds in IT operations. We hope our career discussions will be vendor neutral, relevant across disciplines, and remain timeless. If you're enjoying our content, please drop us a positive review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you subscribe. And if you want to get in touch with us, tweet or DM at Nerd Journey. Ultimately, we're just two nerds on a journey.
A journey to virtual enlightenment.
So let's take a trip.
Awesome, Nick. Hey, so this is our second episode in a row with Blake Johnson, second of two.
Yeah, I've been anxious since last week. I'm kind of sweating right now trying to figure out what happens.
Right. If you haven't listened to part one, go back and listen to episode 135, posted last week. That's a good listen. Very good basic or basis and lead in to this episode. I think we get started kind of back in the middle of Blake's philosophy on how to get started in fitness and how that extends into improvement of one's overall life, and especially including your improving your career, which is kind of the focus of our podcast. So, again, not like a traditional guest that we would have, somebody in technical operations or tech advocacy or something like that. But still, just I thought, as we're getting back to maybe the new normal of hopefully a little bit of a post-COVID life, and we're trying to focus in on advancing our careers again. Maybe this discussion of how maybe taking a look at fitness can advance your career and advance you towards your goals as well.
Yeah, and he's going to talk about some fitness objection handling. People have excuses. How can we get past those excuses and stay the course? Once you get started, we talked a little bit about getting started maybe last week. There'll be more about it this week. And how do you stay motivated to keep doing it so you don't fall off the horse? And how can you stay accountable?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're going to tell you what Blake actually does for a living outside of owning his own fitness business this week.
Ooh, yeah, that's right. We kind of dangled that at the end of last week, didn't we?
Indeed.
Awesome. Well, without further delay, let's get back into episode 136, part 2 with Blake Johnson.
What are some of the first changes that you can share that maybe some of your clients have made? I'd love to hear about some of those if you're able to speak to them.
My clients are so cool. We have some absolute rock stars. For example, I have one guy who has a history of bad knees. He's a former athlete. He actually went to high school with me, a good buddy of mine, and always a bigger guy. He was an offensive lineman, has kids. And just reached out and said, "Hey man, I'm bigger than I've ever been, and I just really, really, really want to feel better. I want to be able to move around." I said, "Great, man. Let's, come up with a plan. Here's, A to B. Here we at." And he texted me. It was probably 2 weeks ago, saying, "Man, this might not seem like a big deal to most, but my watch is a lot tighter. Like I have to go much, tighter on my watch." He said, "And I got to play with my kids all day today, and I never got tired." And not once did he talk about pounds. Not once did he talk about, any blood work that he's done. He said, "I feel better." And, to me, that's what's the important part is, the way he quantifies success is how well can I play with my kids? Dude, I just did a whole day. Great, man. I can't wait till, in a year you guys go on that week-long hike. I'm very excited to hear about it. Oh, I got some other clients, man. I have another guy who used to be diabetic and is no longer needing insulin, off high blood pressure, but it's because we just one day at a time. Okay, you drink way too much soda, my man. Let's get rid of 3 cans. Just get 3 a week. Once the 3 a week, we'll take the fourth away. Once the fourth is gone, you're not even going to want soda anymore. great. Now that you're drinking more water, we can kind of push it a little bit harder in the gym because you're probably feeling better. Yes. Okay, great. And I mean, he's a shell of his former self in the best way possible. And I don't know, I just get so excited about people. Man, yeah, my I don't deserve my clients, to be totally honest. They are all absolute rock stars.
How about cracking that seal, though? There's all kinds of psychological reasons that people don't try to eat better, try to, work out more. Um, and a lot of those things are made a little bit easier by having a strength and conditioning coach or a trainer or something along those lines. But there's barriers to even doing that, right? People will say, for example, I don't like going to the gym because that's where fit people are, not people who are trying to get fit. So how does somebody who has those barriers approach those barriers and break through some of those?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing, especially with that specific case, and a lot of cases, is we self-sabotage ourselves a lot. We already make a decision or we already assume something about a place before we even taking a step in. Now, that's not saying that people have stepped into a gym, were surrounded by a bunch of gym bros, hated every second of it, got out, was not for them. I've been there, I get it. But that's not the only gym in the world. So I think the first thing is trying to again step back from where we are in our little bubble and say, okay, are all gyms bad? No. Great. Okay. Are all gyms bad? Yes. Okay. Well, then if we're never going to do something in the gym, what do we need to do? Okay. Well, there's a playground, there's a park, I have stuff at home. Great. Find out what you can or cannot do within that limitation that we set. Um, if we're open-minded or if we're able to step back and say, you know what, maybe I just need help. Maybe I need a friend. Maybe I just, need to show up and just, talk to someone. I'm not even going to work out. I just want to walk in there. I think making that decision is incredibly helpful. Obviously, it always helps to have someone in your corner, but if we're talking solo, that would be the biggest thing is can we step back from our preconceived, you know, sabotage? Because the only reason that I am not where I want to be in my life is because I stopped myself before I even started. I made the decision that there's no way I'll do that. There's no way they'll accept me. There's no way I'll get that job. There's absolutely I didn't ever applied. I didn't walk in. I didn't say hi. I didn't do any of that. I made those decisions already. And then, looking back, you're like, oh, come on, man. Like, what was I thinking? I think the easiest thing, to try to do that is one step, small incremental change. If you're not into gyms, okay, what can we do at home? Can we watch a video and follow something? Can we, take a walk in our neighborhood? Can we go to a place that we just really, really enjoy and be around it? And um, if we can, then let's see how well we can kind of build up on top of that until we get to that ultimate goal of, if it's going to a gym or having a coach or just feeling better. How you got to make the first step at some point.
I like the idea of measuring what matters, feeling better, feeling healthier, having more energy, rather than necessarily measuring the waistline, measuring the pounds on the scale. While those are good metrics, right? They may not necessarily be the right one to chase at the time, or maybe it's an aggregation of those, all of them. You need to check all the boxes in some way. How about this one, Blake? I don't have time to exercise. How do you break that barrier down? I'm just too busy.
Man, we all got 24 hours in a day. We all got the same amount of time. Time doesn't wait for anyone, whether or not we want it to. Slow down, speed up. No matter what's going on, time keeps ticking. I think you're right. You will not have time for things that aren't important to you. We will always make time for what matters. We will always make time for stuff that actually, like Blake, who hates waking up at 5 a.m., will do every single day for the rest of his life because working out for me is more important than not working out. So I will wake up early and get my workout in before I go to work because I know if I go to work and I go home after, I'm not, I'm done. I'm out. I know that about myself. But I also don't need 2 hours. People are like, oh, I only have 30 minutes. Dude, that's way too much time if you really think about it. Like you can smoke yourself out in 5 minutes if you really want to. Just go sprint for 5 minutes straight. I'm out for a week. I don't know how y'all are doing. So there's a million ways to skin a cat. There's a million ways to get to where we want to be. in time limits. If you have 2 hours, great. There's a lot you could do in 2 hours. You only got 20 minutes? Great. There's a lot you can do in 20 minutes. You're just going to have to, change it up a little bit. So that's my favorite. What's the word I'm looking for? That's my favorite objection.
Objection.
That's my favorite objection. Oh, I don't have time. Yes, you do. And if you don't, then great. Then hit me up when you do have enough time because something tells me you will find it. Because it's either going to be that or you're going to be sitting next to a doctor saying, you probably should have found time. And no one likes that conversation. We try to get there before that.
Yeah, I mean, in being in technical sales, I'll tell you that, there's always a reason to not do something. It doesn't matter how important it is. Finding, like, figuring out that it actually is important to you personally and your success as a person, and maybe key to your self-actualization as a person is maybe the first thing to realize, and then understanding all the objections that you're putting in front of yourself and finding ways to work around them. Say, oh, I don't want to go to a gym, then okay, fine, we'll figure out a way to not go to a gym but accomplish the same things. I like that talk track. That makes a lot of sense to me. And then how about staying the course? Because it isn't easy, right? These are changes, and we as people don't like change. And increasing fitness isn't easy. It hasn't ever been easy for me. It's always been work, right? And work doesn't necessarily feel good until you're well into it. And then, sometimes you get addicted to that work. But there's that period of time where it's maybe just painful and annoying, sweaty and uncomfortable, and you don't find that rewarding yet.
Right. I mean, in terms of us all hating change, absolutely. There's no growth in the comfort zone. There's no comfort in the growth zone. That's one of my favorite sayings. Like if I'm comfortable, then I need to go get uncomfortable because I'm not growing, whether it's spiritually, mentally, physically. You know, when you plateau, and it means you're not going anywhere. So in terms of the motivation, right? If it were easy, everyone would do it. If it were easy, we'd all look like Arnold Schwarzenegger or insert whoever you think of as who you want to be. We'd all look like that. We'd all be, Tom Brady. We'd all be, Sammy Sosa, Barry Bonds, all of them. We'd all be everything. It's not. Life's not easy though. Life's not meant to be easy. It's the only game we'll lose no matter what. No one wins the game of life. We all end the same. So I think knowing that, for me, I've always kind of embraced the fact that people say embrace the suck. I don't like that. I've never enjoyed that saying because it shouldn't, be that negative. But embrace the discomfort because if I stayed comfortable, I'd be who I was 10 years ago, and that's not acceptable for me.
I think the only people who say embrace the suck are the Navy SEALs, and that's a very small part of the population that are Navy SEALs.
And those guys are awesome, and I respect them, but I don't want to live that way. There's a reason why they do it, and I don't.
That's not going to be our episode title, by the way. It's not going to be embrace the suck.
I appreciate it. If it were easy, everyone would do it. But it's not easy. I think understanding that's not easy for really anyone. If you look at elite athletes, if you look at the healthiest people in the world, it's not even easy for them. They have just found a way to make it a major part of their life. They've made it a must-have for them, right? I think it's not easy for anyone, and if we can at least embrace that or at least understand that, I think wait, you're saying that Tom Brady struggles the same way I struggle? Probably not the same way, but I guarantee if him and I ran, a 2 mile track, we'd both feel the same afterwards, I think kind of it's one of those things that brings us all together and it makes it more human, it makes it more realistic, and it really makes it easier. If man, I might be at this crazy bro gym, but they're struggling the same way I'm struggling, and one day I'm going to be struggling with them. I think instead of turning it as a negative, it can be a very easy positive. And
Well, this idea of staying the course, does that necessitate that you must do something every day? Or is it a certain number of times per week? when you start off with your clients? What do you think?
Life is messy. Life is messy. Things happen. Life happens. That's my number one. I'll say it to every single person. Life happens, right? You can make a decision. Whatever happens, happens. But regardless of what happened in the past, we're here right now. So every client I start with will have a goal. Hey, we're gonna do 3 days a week, 4 days a week, 5 days a week, regardless of where they're at in their, and we talk about it. There's no one size fits all. Everyone has a very personalized plan. But if we don't reach all five of them, what happened? Oh, well, I had to work late. Hey, I had something happen in the family. Okay, great. Life happens. Like we can adjust. Don't beat yourself up over that. Those aren't failures. Those are things that we can kind of, you know, focus on the successes. Don't focus on the misses, right? You know, if we can focus on that, staying the course is okay. Why did we get off? What forced us to fall off track? Let's at least talk about it. It's the elephant in the room. Why did we go out last night, drink and eat a bunch of pizza, wake up, miss your workout, you ate bad food? Like, okay, let's talk about it. Great. Here's how we can change. Next time you go out, do this and this, but understand that you probably will feel better in the morning if you do it this way. I think staying the course is just having a real honest talk and accountability. It's whether it's self accountability, whether it's accountability with a coach, a friend, a family member. Hey man, you said you're going to do this. What happened? And without a judgment, right? I think another thing that happens a lot is there's a lot of judgment out there. You can't work out 5 days a week, man. Come on. No, life happens. But let's try to adjust. Either we need to adjust your behaviors or we need to adjust our program to fit that. Because again, there's no one size fits all. Life is messy. Anything can happen at any time. We need to be able to adapt to that. Is it something that we're doing or is it something that we need to adjust to? And that's, I think, when it comes to health and fitness, but when it comes to business, when it comes to really anything, how can we adapt and how can we understand, the goals here, we're here, everything in the middle needs to correlate, but that's going to be the hardest part is correlating it. How can we do that?
This sounds awfully similar to an episode of the Packet Pushers podcast where they talked about this idea of a blameless postmortem. Something went horribly wrong in an IT environment, and instead of who caused this issue, it's what was the root cause of the problem environmentally, and how can we avoid having that happen in the future, and not fry this person who made a change that messed something up. I like that idea.
Yeah, I love that. Absolutely.
The absence of judgment, that's a hard one, because when somebody is asking you why you missed the mark on X, it's hard to not feel like they're going to judge you for your not being able to measure up, so to speak.
For sure. Accountability is accountability. At the end of the day, if you need to be held accountable, I think that's important. I think being held accountable and then holding yourself accountable is important. But at the same time, I think creating an environment and a situation where I can hold myself accountable and be held accountable without feeling bad, without necessarily feeling shame, because a lot of people love to hit the shame stuff and like, oh, I'm just, that works for some people. That's never worked for me. I've always been a person who's like, hey, we messed up. Let's fix it. Let's move on. Here's what we're going to do now. Acknowledge it, fix it, move on. If it happens multiple times, then different accountability is important.
It's interesting. I'm sorry to interrupt, but like sometimes I sense that, or at least my outside observation is that people can be addicted to the shame spiral, or they're more comfortable in the shame spiral than they are in the discomfort of making a positive change in their life. Does that
Oh,
make sense?
absolutely. 100%. Um, I wish I could pull it out, but I read, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, a psychology study about why do we stay in the same place? Why do we trick ourselves or force ourselves to stay in a situation that is outwardly and inwardly negative? Everyone can see it, we can see it, we talk about it, but we stay exactly where we're at, whether it's health and fitness, whether it's relationships, whether it's job. Why do we stay there? And it's really, really fascinating because, and again, I wish I could pull up the exact study out and get to the real, like the good nitty bitty. But at the end of the day, like our brain just stop. We essentially overload the senses to where hey, that's scary. That freaks me out. I can deal with this. I've already been dealing with this. We'll just keep doing this. Versus the, hey, if I get out, it's going to suck for a while. I'm not a Navy SEAL, so I don't know if I want to embrace that. I'm just going to stay here. And it's interesting, and it's definitely something I wish, if Blake could change the world, we change our entire education system to where we really focus on like these higher level things such as psychology and philosophy, so that we can all come out well rounded and understanding a little bit differently than hypotenuse of triangles and whatnot, which are important for some
Hey,
people.
trigonometry is important, and I don't think that.
Trigonometry is the worst.
Hey, you came to
I
the
think
wrong
math is the
place.
best subject personally.
See, I love math. I just hated trigonometry. That was the only class I didn't like.
Oh, trigonometry is awesome. Loved it. I just thought geometry was algebra with pictures, and it was wonderful. But
See, I don't like the picture. Just give me the variables.
I think I'm biased since I used to teach math. So,
Big stats guy. Love stats.
see, I think stats was tough. I had challenges in stats. So,
Teachers, teachers. That's what it was.
Fascinating. The statistics was the first class in math that I took that I found, oh wait, this is like real world applicable, right? Like, hey, I saw this thing happen a number of times. How many times do I actually need to see it before it's actually a significant event?
Right.
Where it's significantly correlating with something else. Hey, another green car went by. Oh, hey, yet another green car went by. How many green cars need to go by before it's safe to say, oh, wow, there's a surprisingly large number of green cars compared to other colored cars?
Right.
Statistics can tell you that, and there's math behind it. But this is not a stats podcast. But we're happy to do a stats episode if our listeners demand. So go
100%.
ahead and give us feedback.
Everybody send us your health stats. We'll do that.
Sold.
I get the sense that you have some kind of philosophical or rhetorical basis for human improvement. And I would be curious, I don't know if I'm putting you on the spot here, to if that's something that you've ever articulated to yourself or to your clients, people who are coming to you for guidance on that, for, just the general topic of improvement. I'm sure physical, spiritual, career, like there has to be some kind of underlying philosophical basis there.
Just to boil it down to one point, life is short, and we only have one. I don't believe in reincarnation, and if I did, I wouldn't believe that all of my existence will pass through. So we have one shot at this life, whether it's long, short, whatever. So for me, it's life is far too short to not maximize our abilities to do everything. Life is far too short to wake up every day not loving every second of it. Life is far too short to wake up feeling bad. Life is way too short to just not, give yourself every ample opportunity to just go out there and just have fun. I feel like my entire life I put so much pressure on myself to be this and this, and growing up I had to be this, and after college I needed to do this, and I think I woke up one day and said, I don't care anymore. I'm going to focus on my life being the life I want to be, and I'm going to focus on treating people well. And what happened when I did that? People started treating me a lot better, and I really focused on surrounding myself with positive thinking and situations that made me feel better. And what happened? I mean, I'm telling you, Blake 10 years ago is not the same Blake that's about to turn 30 and living his best life. So my philosophy is life's short, and we only got one chance. There's no reset button. I wish we were in a simulation where we can kind of put a cheat code in and get like all the money and stuff, but like we can't, and we can't surround ourselves with thinking that way. It's easy to look at other people and say that could be me, or that should be me, or man, why can't I be there? Man, they got so much lucky. They probably feel the same exact way about something else, right? We are all so similar, regardless of the things around us. So that's my number one philosophy is like life's short, man, maximize it.
In light of becoming a master in your field, can you still enjoy that even though it takes a lot of work? I mean, if you think about the idea of mastery, you can love what you do, but if you're not really good at it, and you own your own business, then you might not achieve success that you want to achieve. You know what I mean? So I'm just curious, even though you love the field and maybe love the work, does it ever become just work? Or are you able to get rid of that mantra?
A million percent for me, and with strength conditioning, it did at some point become more of a chore. I think the intricacies of the world and humanity really, suck the excitement out of it because that's not my primary, field anymore. I do own my own business, and I'm able to pour the parts that I love into it because it's mine, and I can really just focus on that. And I'm not answering anyone else. I'm not having to, you know, debate or have philosophical differences on how to take care of people. Like it's just me, and I've been loving that. But absolutely, and I think while life is too short to do what you hate, and life's too short to not follow your passions, I think there needs to be an understanding that like I don't want to surround myself with just my passions. If all I did was because I thought about getting my PhD in rhetoric, and because I'm passionate about I have all my little Greek books and I read them and I love it, linguistics. But I truly think that like at a certain point it would become a job, and while I would love it, it would not bring me that same like fire-filled passion I have when it's not all I do. It's what I'm allowed to do. It's what I give myself to do. And same with the strength conditioning. It was my bread and butter career for 6+ years. And if we go back to just personal training before even strength conditioning, I mean we're talking a decade. It's all I did, and I loved it. But it got to the point where the world's gonna make it noisy. The world's gonna throw variables that are gonna make you. And for me, it was time to tip my cap to that style of training, and get to my own. And now I get so excited because I can talk about these things. I still have that like, childish joy about it while being able to pursue other, passions of mine. While if it hasn't been said in this podcast, I sell cars. I'm a car salesman now. I actually I'm in the customer service game. We just happen to sell cars. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. But I get to meet and talk with incredible people who are passionate about other things. And for me, I think that's all I've ever wanted in life is a career that I can do that. And it's just bonus that I get to keep reading the books I want to read, and I keep training the way I want to train, and I'm also doing what I love.
We're gonna have to find some kind of record scratch sound effect.
So I'm pretty
By the way, I sell cars. That's
big car salesman guy. Big car salesman. I don't know, man. I could talk about it forever. I love people. I love life. Life rules. So much better than the alternative.
that. So it's so interesting that you say that because, of course, our like society's perception of people who sell is fairly negative. And of all the things that you could sell, like cars is probably more on the negative side, other than like, the only thing I could think of that, society looks like even more down on is like, I don't know, infomercial sales, vacation rentals.
Door to door sales, shoe sales, folks. Yeah, yeah.
So tell me about that because I just feel this massive disconnect between like the positivity that you are coming to us with and this focus on personal self-actualization and customer service and car sales. Like those two things on the surface seem to be not meshing. But I'd love to hear because I feel like there's a story there.
If you'd have told me 5 years ago, Blake, you're gonna be selling cars, I'd have laughed at you. If you'd have told me any time in my life, I'd have laughed at you. But when I stepped away from strength and conditioning, my wife and I planned on moving, and I said, "Hey, I'm gonna apply to a few different jobs." And one happened to be for a company that sells cars. And to be totally, frank with you all, I would not be in the car game if it wasn't for working for this company. And they have a reputation for customer service and taking care of people, not only customers, but, associates as well. And I've always, you know, it's a staple. It's a staple company in Dallas, and it was such an obvious choice when interviewing with them that it wasn't fake. So they kind of aligned all their passions and my passions when it came to treating people well, taking care of people. Oh, by the way, you're gonna have to sell cars. I can figure that out. I can, I'll learn how to do that. So yeah, I mean, and I'll be the first to say, car salesmen, they absolutely earn their reputations. I deal with, all of them. I deal with a bunch of them. I hear stories from customers previous, and I'm just flabbergasted. It makes no sense to me that in a job where you're supposed to take care of people, that they don't take care of people. And I think I really enjoy the fact that, I can take what many people consider a loathsome experience. Oh, I have to go buy a car and I gotta go deal with the car man. I'm gonna be there all day and it's gonna suck. And turn it into like, wow, okay, that was not the worst thing in the world. Okay, man, like that was a positive experience. I take pride in that. I wouldn't be in cars if it wasn't for the company I'm with, but ever since I started, I've really enjoyed the fact that I can really switch people's perceptions on what the expectation should be. And it's really changed kind of the way I perceive most things at this point now. Because, you know, if a car salesman can make that experience good, anyone can make anything good. If you can make dealing with all that and all the paperwork and sitting, and if that can be a decent day, man, think how much better the world could be if we just did that with everything. And I don't know, I take pride in that. It's been a challenge for sure. It's unlike anything I've ever been a part of in my past, and I'm always up for a good challenge, but it's been fun. And I get to wear a tie. I've never worn a tie in my life. I feel so fancy.
So you're telling me, like, first of all, like, let me back up. The car sales industry is an industry that's famous, even within the sales industry, for having like grinding systems, right? Like hiring salespeople at like 100% commission. Oh, you didn't sell anything? You make no money at all, right?
Yep,
You're making less than minimum wage. You're making zero.
you are not.
To having like sales systems that are there to like beat down the customer, to like extract like the last 20, 30, $50 and then go back and ask for 20 more and alienate the customer for the cost of like that last drop of blood. But you're saying that within a system like that, you can still have a company that doesn't treat people like that, that doesn't treat its sales associates like that, doesn't treat the customers like that, doesn't treat the product like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And what did my company do? They looked at those processes and said, "Hey, this is why it's not working. This is why dealers have bad names. This is why these situations happen. So we're not going to do that. We're not going to beat you down for every last penny. We're going to give you a fair price, and we're going to tell you every single thing that goes into that price. And there's the price. And it's as simple as that. And if there's any negotiation, we're happy to, but there's not a lot because we don't mark things with a bunch of room to negotiate for that reason. We treat you like an actual customer. You're not just some person on our lot. You are the person on our lot. You are, the whole reason that we exist is because of you. So it's baffling to me that this is not a system-wide, phenomena because I'm blessed to be with a company that's about to celebrate their 110th year. They do okay for themselves, and it's because they do this. And it's we're not trying to suck every nickel and dime out of each person. We're gonna let you have enough blood so when you want to come back, you'll just do another one and another one. We'd rather get you to be a repeat customer than a one-time customer, make a bunch of money off you the first time, um, because that's good for everyone. It obviously is good for us, but it's also good for the consumer that they never leave feeling, wow, that was not fun. That was not a good experience. It's, hey, man, can't wait in, 5, 10 years when I have to do it. And hopefully I can call Blake back. And, I know I'm going to hear from him because I do birthday cards. So get ready. But, it's just, it's a funny thing that, common sense isn't that common. Take care of people the honest right way, and funny, look what happens.
That's it's so interesting because I was about to say that I bet that it was born out of the disappearing information asymmetry in the car purchasing experience. Like more and more customers have more and more information about, dealer costs, like invoice costs, holdbacks, and all the things that go into the car buying process. And more are less interested in actually stepping foot on a car lot to buy a car. But to say like, oh no, like this is a business that's been, around for over 100 years, like I suppose that doesn't necessarily mean that the sales system has been that for over 100 years, but I feel like it's difficult for organizations to make that much of a drastic change. That philosophy had to have been around for a little while at least.
Right, and I think that's the most impressive part is we haven't really revolutionized anything. We've, taken the same tenets of really, treat others like you want to be treated from day one, and just use it for this industry, right? You see this, through hospitality. You see this through, other industries where, hey, let me take care of you. Yeah, it's gonna be great. You're gonna come back for more. But we don't see that in car sales because it's, hey, I don't make money. I need to make money. I'm gonna sell you five car, sell you one. I'm gonna sell this. No, I'm gonna take care of you, and hopefully you'll call me next time you need something. I'm gonna take care of you next time. And we also, I work for a company that takes care of, the workers. Like we, don't get me wrong, I'm full commission. If I don't sell, my dogs don't eat, and which, one of them probably shouldn't eat as much as he does anyway. But I'm incentivized to go every day, not only because of the perks, but because they treat me very, very well. I'm not treated like the new guy, the new salesman. I'm treated like the associate, no different than anyone. And it's just refreshing. It's real nice to kind of, be a part of a culture like that. And, you know, I don't know. I'm just life's been good.
I like that. One of the things you shared with me, Blake, full disclosure, Blake sold me a car recently. All right. I'll just get that out there. He did a good job. Really appreciate it. Thought he was an awesome dude. You'd be surprised what you can learn about people just having an interesting conversation with him. Told him he had a nice podcast voice, and come to find out, he owns his own fitness business, and we just struck up a conversation. One of the things you shared with me, Blake, was that you had found your why, and that it was really important for people to do that. Can you expound on that a little bit? I know you shared some of that already, but I'm curious if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I think no matter what we do in life, if you don't have a reason why you're going to do it, you're not going to do it well. You're not going to be as successful as you could be. So, I'm actually pretty sure this is, in most like business classes is if you can understand the why behind your business, the what will follow. You don't have to find the what and the how if you don't have a why. Because if you don't have a why, the what, the how, the when, none of that really will matter. So, for me in my life, my why is I just love people and I love taking care of people and I love making other people's lives better. Whether it's something as small as just giving them a high five when they're having a rough day and they just had a little smile on their face, or as big as, giving them the opportunity to finally drive to that dream job that they got because they couldn't do that before. Or, get off pills that regulated their blood pressure that made them feel really, really bad now that they don't have to. So for me, whether it's, building Manifest Fit my business or, working for the company I work for, the why has always been the same. So I want to take care of people. I want to treat people well and hopefully leave a positive impact on their life. So I think whether it's building a business or even in your specific job, if you don't understand why do I show up every day? Why am I doing what I'm doing? If you can't like truly answer that question well, then I'm not saying, burn it all down and restart, but maybe think about it. What is your personal why? And then how can you use that to, navigate your life a little bit differently?
Yeah, and it sounds like in your case, your own personal why, your values aligned with the company values, and that was part of the reason you wanted to work there, even though it maybe meant that you had to do something different, right?
100%.
Sell cars. And I think a lot of our previous guests have echoed similar thoughts in that they wanted their employer's values to align with their own personal values when selecting a new company to join, regardless of what the role was.
Yeah, and that is in no way, shape, or form a condemnation of previous situations I've been in. I've been very, very blessed to be around incredible, company cultures around. I just think, for me and kind of where I was and what me and my wife really valued was, taking care of each other and taking care of others. The opportunity to, work for this company. I had two interviews with two different companies in two different industries. And, at the end of the day, it came down to, where do I feel at home at? Because the hours are going to be long regardless. I'm used to long hours. Where am I going to really, really enjoy? And man, if I don't often pick right, but boy, oh boy, I should have had a lottery ticket because I hit the jackpot on that one.
We all find our own jackpots, don't we?
Now, did you see any leprechauns with pots of gold at the end of the rainbow? I'm just curious.
No, no, it was really disappointing. It was just a bunch of water.
It must just be in the Lucky Charms commercials then. I don't know. Any parting thoughts here, Blake, in terms of maybe best, worst career advice you've ever been given? A lot of times we'll ask our guests that. Anything you want to add to what we've discussed today?
The best advice and the worst advice was the same advice, and it was do what you love. Because I think if you just follow what you love, it can be a very big rabbit hole of negativity, frustration. Because I love a lot of things that I will never turn into a career. But at the same time, if you do something that you hate, it's not going to be beneficial. So, I think it goes back to life's way too short to settle for anything better than what your best is. Not the best, but what your best is. So if you can find your why and you're able to, come up with an understanding of kind of what you want out of this life, I think everything else will fall into place and you will end up loving it, but also able to love other things and really have a what I would consider a three-dimensional life versus, a 2D just, forward and back. You're able to get that full experience.
Blake, yeah, that was awesome.
Great
Thanks so much
advice.
for joining us on the Nerd Journey podcast. Really enjoyed it. Like, what if people wanted to reach out to you? Can you give us your social handles again?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm at Viva La Blake on Twitter and Instagram. I'm the worst poster, so I'm not worth following. But if you ever want to reach out and DM me, I'm always following. My business is Manifest Fit at manifest_fit on Instagram, but I'm LinkedIn. If you can find Blake Johnson in LinkedIn, good for you. I'm there somewhere.
Nice. Blake, thanks again so much for your time this evening.
Guys, I sincerely appreciate it. It's been a blast. Hopefully, I can't wait to hear it, but I'm excited that y'all had me.
So how about that? A car salesman seeking to make the car buying experience better, more positive. Something that isn't the worst day you've had since you bought your last car. I really like that. And Blake, he had options. He didn't have to go and sell cars when he was looking for work. He had two options, and this particular company, as part of their values, wanted to refactor, there's a technology buzzword for you, refactor the car buying experience into something better. That's a core value of the company. And he said, okay, I can learn how to sell cars because I want to work there.
Yeah, it was really interesting to hear about and contrast my expectation of what a car salesman is and like what their values are and Blake's like positive philosophy and his life affirmation and progression, and to hear him say that he actually found a car dealership where he felt comfortable working and that aligned with his, philosophy and values, like that was just surprising and shocking. I don't know. I also just love to hear about his kind of closing like thoughts and personal values. They're just so aligned with kind of what we've been talking about on the Nerd Journey podcast, for so long.
How about that accountability and shame section when it comes to trying not to fall off the wagon with your fitness.
Oh yeah.
You know, this non-judgmental, or at least let's not dwell on it. Acknowledge that it happened. Let's fix it or change it in some way so that it doesn't happen anymore, and move on.
Yeah. I want to say the site reliability engineers have like a term for that. What is it? Like a blame-free
Blameless postmortem? I was going to say ticket closure, but I know that's not right.
blameless postmortem, yeah. And that, I think, analysis of like, hey, this is why it failed. Let's figure out how to fix that and then just move on. Like just so many parallels, for somebody who like is not in a tech career, there's so many things that we talked to Blake about over these past two episodes that I felt like were like direct parallels to a tech career. Even just the fitness objection handling, which you mentioned. Like we're in technical sales, so a lot of sales is about objection handling, and that's sales in like the formal sales process of one company to another, but also the internal process of selling like a project, right? Well, hey, I know my manager isn't necessarily going to be wild about me doing this, and he's probably going to object in this way and this way and this way, and I better be, prepared to manage those objections. So lots and lots of parallels to our world.
My favorite objection is the I don't have time to do fitness things, but he handled that really well. If you only have a little bit of time, you can still do a little bit of fitness and use that time and not waste it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, John, the next time you have 10 minutes, just do 100 push-ups. You'll be fine.
Well, I don't know if I can cut it down to 100, but okay.
Oh, right. Maybe that's too slow for you. We'll say, what, 1,000? Is that a good guess?
Well, I would say, yeah, I suppose like I shouldn't poo-poo doing 100 push-ups in 10 minutes. Like a slow push-up is also, sometimes harder than a fast push-up. So, okay. Yeah.
There you go.
Point.
Resistance training. Think about it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, Nick, I think that's all we had for that episode, unless anything else popped into your head.
No, sir. Just a reminder that we want people to subscribe and give us a positive review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. We want to know if we're being helpful and are always looking for interesting questions to ponder. We're collectively on Twitter @NerdJourney.
All right. Farewell, listeners. Tune in next time as the journey continues. I'm John White @BJourneyman. For Nick Cordy @NetworkNerd_, signing off.
Stay fit, everybody. Adios.